And to me, all of these perspectives that have been really opening up my mind and opening up my heart to hold space for all of these multitudes of beliefs and just lead with curiosity as my Gemini rising. Um, all of this to say is really leading up to this Mercury retrograde, right? Mercury stations retrograde on August 4th, and Mercury will be going from Virgo of 4 degrees, its home sign of Virgo, 4 degrees, and it's going to be going all the way back to Leo of 21 degrees. And right before a Mercury retrograde, Mercury is traveling through its shadow zone. Essentially, that area it's literally a foreshadow when Mercury is moving direct before it stops at its retrograde station place and then goes backwards, where it has to redo and rethink and reiterate, and then it's going to go forward again when it starts to move direct. Mercury passes that one section in your chart a total of 3 passes. And so this first pass that we've been going through shows us what's breaking down. And I'm like, oh, look, there's some breakdown in like some of like my most intimate communities through my business. What do I need to change my perspective on? Because when we think about a Mercury retrograde, and I'm going to talk about that before we go into the full August Starcast, because to me, this is like the biggest thing about August. Pretty much Mercury retrograde spans the entire month of August. And it is really our chance to change our perspectives. When we think about a Mercury retrograde, it is our chance to do a reboot, to rethink. And when it's in Virgo and Leo, we have to do the Virgo reiterations, reconsiderations, recoherence, redefining our different actions and our practices. And then as we move into Leo, then this is going to allow us to shine brighter. And so I'm calling this the theme of this Mercury retrograde: reiterate to polish and blaze. So on August 4th, again, Mercury is going to stop to turn retrograde at Virgo of 4 degrees. And this is going to start our second Mercury retrograde of 2024. And this energy is going to allow us to reorganize our lives with a daily practice. That's the Virgo energy that supports your brilliance, visibility, and lifestyle. That's Leo energy. And so, in short, if there's one thing that I want you to remember about this Mercury retrograde, is that Mercury is giving you the chance to reorganize your life for daily practices that support your health, your creativity, and visibility so you can shine brightly and be seen. If you've been working with me for a while, you know that I love this idea of leadership and how astrology can inform our leadership style, how astrology can inform how we make our mark, how astrology can inform our businesses and our brands. But if we are only on this one path of our outward visibility and we're not doing the deep inner work, then we're going to be off balance. We're never going to have the success that we need. And so there's a dual path of our outer leadership and doing the work in the public, as well as doing the strength building on our inner lives. And so doing the healing work, doing the mindset work, doing our spiritual work, it is a parallel path. And so even with this Mercury retrograde, even if we want to be showing up in a more vibrant and creative way with that kind of Leo and finding those practices and those systems that uphold our ability to be visible, if our inner work, if we're not building up our inner muscle to be courageous, to show up, if we're not doing our inner mindset, our inner practices, daily practices, we're not going to show up for ourselves. And so if you've been hiding lately and not showing up, or if you've been letting parts of your business kind of go under because you've fallen off your consistency horse, or maybe you've been stuck in a creative rut for a lack of inspiration, this Mercury retrograde has your back to reignite your daily practices that create the progress you desire. Remember, Virgo is not about perfection. Virgo is about wholeness. It's about coherence and how we can get to that with daily progress, daily practice. The Virgo power of reiteration, right? I'm a classical clarinetist. And so I've been practicing like the same concerto for like 30 years or more. And it gets slowly better and better and better. It changes, it evolves, it shifts. That's the power of reiteration, to perfect something, not make perfect, because there's no such thing as perfect, but to perfect it, to get it more beautiful. And then there's the Leo, that fiery, reviving power that makes things brilliant, like the golden light of the sun. And so when we put this like earth and fire together, of course, I think about ceramics. Right. I've never done ceramics, but I know the kind of the ins and outs of ceramics, right? So when we work on our lives and our leadership with this Mercury retrograde, it's like you're polishing and glazing so you can show up in your leadership more brightly. So imagine that potter that's molding the clay into this beautiful vessel, right? That Virgo, that earth, that clay, Virgo. That is that this vessel is already whole without its finish. But the next day, the potter comes back for that next iteration and applies a drip of glaze, and it fires it and it gives it a glow, and then comes back at again and then gives it another color of glaze, and it changes the glow. And then that potter can decide when enough is enough, or it can continue on exploring and making it more brilliant. And so I want you to be that potter in your life and know that it's time to come back to something. This is time for you to see that progress in your brilliance, in your leadership, in your visibility is not always a one-time catapult. Yes, sometimes we can have those like viral sensations and those instant shocks, but more than likely those are outliers. The way that you really get there is through interactive practice, meaning you have a system, a routine, a rhythm of coming back to something and making it better a little at a time. If you've ever, practiced an instrument or practiced a language or done any kind of like bodybuilding or weight training, you can see that the strength gets better a little at a time. And that's what I mean about iteration. And so your creativity, your visibility, your ability to open your mind in a creative way to more perspectives and holding that space, yeah, that takes practice too. Okay, so this is your chance to reorganize your life, your lifestyle with Leo, to take daily action towards your desires. Yes, your desires. What do you want? Because Venus, at the very beginning of the Mercury retrograde, Venus is going to be conjunct Mercury and saying, hey, what do you want? How are we going to organize your lifestyle so that you can prioritize what you want? Now, if you want to take a look at your natal chart, I want you to look for that area of your chart between Leo of 21 degrees and Virgo of 4 degrees. That is that area that Mercury is going to go by 3 times. Leo of 21 to Virgo 4 degrees. That's only 13 degrees, a sliver of one of your houses, or maybe it's going over a cusp line. But this is that area of your life and your work where you want to reiterate, where you want to reconsider, where you want to reorganize so that you can have a glow up with brilliance and with that beautiful shiny glaze ablaze. So, where in your leadership do you need to create a practice of showing up, right? That's the outward leadership part. And where in your inner life do you need to cultivate, recultivate creative habits that you need to up your inner vibrancy? Okay. So, on the inner part first, let's start with the inner side, right? I'll say that question again. What creative habits do you need to reinstate for your inner vibrancy, right? Remember, you might have once had a creative or a health habit that brought you so much joy. I used to go to regular yoga. I would go to yoga 3 or 4 times a week. Oh my gosh, I loved that so much. Yoga was so good for my body because yoga union, like made a union of my mind, body, spirit, emotions. I was able to move through emotions. My body felt strong and limber. I was, getting a good sweat. And I really miss going to regular yoga. Maybe for you, it was meditation, or maybe the artist way, Julia Cameron's morning pages, or maybe you had a ritual of meeting your friends every Sunday for a fun day. So I want you to think back to these daily habits that brought you so much joy in your personal lives. And I want you to get curious with what has fallen away because, well, life gets in the way. But how can you reorganize your life to bring in those creative habits back? How can you schedule those in to prioritize that? How do you want your body and your mind and your heart and your soul to feel? Because you have these daily practices that take care of your wellness and your creativity. And is there something small that maybe you can implement daily that brings you so much joy? That's why I think that the Julia Cameron's, The Artist Way, if you know Julia Cameron, she wrote the book, The Artist's Way, A Spiritual Path to Higher Creativity. That book is so great. And she has this practice of like morning pages. You start your day just like getting everything out of your mind and your heart, your to-do lists, what you're afraid of, what are your challenges, what are your dreams, and you just write a couple of pages as a practice. This was that to me, that is the epitome of this Mercury retrograde in Virgo and Leo, a daily creative practice. Okay. Now that's in your personal life. But when you have that inner vibrancy and that inner joy, and you've been having a daily practice of filling your spiritual, emotional, physical cup, then this is going to allow you to flex your muscle in your leadership, your outer brilliance, so that you can feel courageous to show up in your own way. Okay, showing up and visibility looks different for everyone. You don't have to be on social media. You don't have to have a book. You don't have to have a podcast. You don't have to do PR, but you have to have something so that you can show up, so that your people know you exist, so they can find you. Okay, so wherever you are in your leadership, you need a practice of showing up as you are. Now, if you don't know who you are, that might be a good start, maybe to look into astrology and find out your own leadership style, to create acceptance around your strengths, to validate what you really truly want and who you truly are. Okay. But if you do know who you are, then it's time to like buckle in and practice and make a system or a protocol for regular updates. Okay. So at one time, you might have had a practice like regular social media posting or regular follow ups, like your systems were working and you could easily follow up with like all the comments and all your lead generations, or regularly checking your bank balances, or regular meeting with your like accountants, or whatever it is. Okay, what has fallen away because you haven't put in consistent action is what this Mercury retrograde wants you to inquire. And it asks you, well, what does regularly showing up look like to you where you're at now? And then what kind of practices, systems, routines, schedules, protocols, whatever you want to call it, that you want to put into place to support you showing up for your leadership, for your work, for your business. Okay. So again, this is a dual path, taking care of your inner life so that you can support your outer leadership and outer expression. Okay. So Mercury in Virgo and Leo, this time it's only highlighting a 13-degree portion of your chart. So look at your chart, see that area between Leo of 21 degrees to Virgo of 4 degrees. What house is in, like what houses contains that area? Is there a cusp? Are there other planets? Are there planets across the way? Are there planets in the square? So this is only for a focused short duration of a time that is going to require readjustment and flexibility. So the same thing goes, don't pack your schedule, don't try to rush anything, don't, like make sure you have all of your I's dotted and your T's crossed. Okay, that goes for every Mercury retrograde, but build in some flexibility for yourself in these short days, 12 days, 13 degrees. Okay. Now, astrology of Mercury retrograde, the Mercury retrograde will be touching Venus on August 7th, conjunct Venus in Virgo. I love that this happens at the very beginning of Mercury retrograde because Venus is about desire. What do you want? What do you want to connect to? What do you want to attract? And so Venus is really asking you to reorganize your life around creating daily practices that support you getting what you want. So Venus is like, okay, friend, what do you want? What are your desires? Make sure you're very clear on that. The other aspect that Mercury is making during this retrograde cycle is a trine with Chiron. We've already had past our foreshadowing on July 18th. Mercury made that first trine with Chiron, and then again, it's going to happen on August 22nd. And then on September 1st. If you're subscribed to my emails, you'll have this written down. You don't have to write down these dates. If you're not subscribed, just head on over to my site, starpower.com/starcast. And to me, this Chiron trining with Mercury and Mercury retrograde is asking us to revitalize. Now, Chiron, of course, is the wounded healer, and Chiron teaches us that we can heal in others, we can fix, we can solve, we can guide in others what we can't fully heal in ourselves. That quest to answering those big questions are our contribution of our greatest gifts, of our biggest challenges. So do you need to revitalize some of your contributions and to take into account some of your Chiron gifts? Okay. And then lastly, I think this is pretty much what my whole episode has been about, is that um, Mercury will be squaring with Uranus during this Mercury retrograde cycle. The first time it happened on July 21st, then it'll happen again on August 17th, and then it'll happen on a third time on September 6th. The whole reason we have these kinds of three passes is like the first time it happens, the theme is kind of a breakdown. The second time it happens, it's kind of an understanding, a rethinking. And then the third time it happens, you have a new plan of action, a different perspective, how you want to change things. And so this Mercury squaring Uranus is about a reformation. Okay. What requires rethinking outside of the box? How have you been so inside your bubble, so inside your window, not listening to other people's perspectives, so concerned about being right than doing the right things, right? What of your thinking, of your perspective, of your understanding, of your knowledge, of your believing needs to be reformed? All of us will be going through this. And so these are just some little details that if you want to like hone back into this timeline and really do this deep work of reorganizing your life, the Mercury square Uranus, Mercury trine Chiron, and Mercury conjunct Venus will give you those detailed and fine points to help you create a bigger story of your learning for this Mercury retrograde. Okay. I know that's a big one. So Again, coming back, if there's one thing that you're going to remember about this Mercury retrograde, this is the opportunity for you to reorganize your life for daily practices that support your health, your creativity, and your visibility so you can shine more brightly in your leadership.